And on that note, welcome everybody to the October 9th, 2020 edition of the Domain Social. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube after the fact, you can join us live every Friday. What you need to do is go to thedomainsocial.com. So thedomainsocial.com, sign up by subscribing. On the top corner, there's a button that says subscribe. Information's there. You will get every week email with the Zoom link and password. And you can also get our socials here. Email is there. Twitter is the Domain Social. Same thing. Facebook and LinkedIn group is there. Oh, Jocelyn was gone. The agenda is pretty much loosey-goosey. I open the doors at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's pretty much off topic. And then as we get closer to 3:15, I'll get into news and guidelines, and we start recording. And then we start talking about anything, incoming offers, your recent sales, industry news, trends, questions, answers, all that kind of stuff. Around 4:30ish, whenever that topic finishes, we'll go into, it's just auctions now, regular auction. This week is a special auction. We'll talk about that later. And then once the auctions are over, we stop recording and we go into the after party. And then we'll go on to probably around 8 p.m. Sometimes we go on until midnight. Depends if I have my dog or not. So to this week, Steamy is not here. So we'll probably go on a little bit later. And sorry it was a little long today, but welcome everybody. And Steamy who? Steamy's my dog, as most of you know. So how have you all been? Everybody have a good domain week this week?
Me.
Yes, no, maybe? Anybody make any sales?
No one wants to talk.
I've talked out. Okay, Joseph, what were we talking about before? That was actually a good topic. So I'll let you bring it up again.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Arif. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I was listening to one of Josh's podcasts. Is he on tonight or today? Well, night for us here in Istanbul.
Yeah, Josh usually pops on a little bit later. He's not usually there at the start. I don't think he's there right now.
Okay, but I was listening to one of his podcasts, and he had Zach on from ICA, and he was talking about the fact that there is a likelihood that ICANN will soon be introducing the idea that if a domain investor or domainer has hundreds, if maybe thousands of domain names, then that could be used against that domain investor in the sense that that shows that it's a or bad faith, that they have not registered this for any, quote unquote, viable business purposes except for selling them. And that it compounds the idea of being, again, in quotes, a cyber squatter. And so that's something that, we need to watch out for. So I wanted to ask the group if you have also heard anything to that extent, and whether or not the fact that, we take pride in owning hundreds and maybe thousands of domain names could actually be held against us. So it is a kind of a, slippery slope that we might be encountering, and what to do as a group of investors to combat that. So that's really what I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, that's really interesting and dangerous too. I agree, because there, in theory, the quantity of domains we hold should never be an issue. The fact that we're buying domains with the intent to resell has never been an issue. It shouldn't be an issue. However, there are some people that hold domains that are, let's say, trademark adjacent, or close, or ones that are more questionable than others, and those I agree. Like, even if you have 10 domains and they're trademark infringing, or well, I mean, yeah, trademark infringing, not close, but if they are, then that should be used against them. But to me, the number shouldn't be a factor, and yeah, it would be very dangerous for that precedent to come in. You guys,
exactly, but yeah, I mean, the issue of trademarks was not even brought up. It was just, the sheer quantity could be used as an example of, again, being a cyber squatter and preventing from, the internet being developed or something to that effect. I mean, again, you may wish to find that and listen to that. It was really briefly mentioned, but has anybody else heard it or heard something similar to that? Jonathan, probably, I mean, you're the one that comes closest to that. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Jonathan knows everything, yeah.
Oh, no, I don't mind talking about this because it comes up. I mean, it's come up a lot over the last few decades. You know, people, what happens is you go and you come up with an idea and you go to try to get the name, and there's somebody already owns it. You contact them and they want, umpteen zillion dollars. Is the user experience, the user journey that's used to define this. Setting aside trademarks, people have feelings about that, and then they, sometimes will attempt UDRP or things like that if they have some intellectual property. Look, the concept of the bulk registrant and the UDRP as some form of a weight has been used as an argument frequently over the course of time. Now, I'm not an attorney and I'm not giving legal advice, and don't take this as legal advice, but I will give you one bit of advice that I 100% say all the time is never, ever, and I know this group doesn't do this, but never, ever knowingly register a trademark. You're poking a bear, and there's probably other ways to come up with better names for whatever project or aspiration you have. Now, that said, will there be a party out in the world you don't know of that might feel entitled to a name you just registered? Absolutely. And how aggressive will they be in approaching, taking that name? I've seen a spectrum of attitudes, some very progressive and sensible, some very, very entitled. And, one of the things that they use as an argument is, hey, look, this person has, hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands of domains, and those all just point at other stuff. So they aren't legitimately using them. And so this name's not being put to legitimate purpose. And it's one of the legs of the UDRP that they use as an argument is it being used in commerce? Right? And so that is happening. Now they're looking at, there's something called the IRT where they're looking at reforming a variety of different things. The UDRP is not entirely come into focus yet. There's another thing that's lighter weight called the URS. I want to say it's like universal rapid suspension.
Yeah, something.
Wow.
And the way that works is it's like UDRP light. And it's used for, a bulk of names for what should be clear cases. And it was designed for the new GTLDs where you've got, brand new wide open spaces, blank canvases, green fields. And there's an attempt right now to put that retroactively into COM and some of the existing TLDs, which I liken to, I don't know, it's like trying to put new housing tract covenants into existing neighborhoods. It's really hard to do, to come back through and, to do that. But the people will attempt. And ultimately, keep track of the hygiene of your registrations. Make sure that I think the bear, when you have something that is a trademark, that you go after somebody with a trademark, that's a bad approach. And don't knowingly register a trademark. Those are some ways you can stay out of the hazard field on this. That would be.
Thanks, Jonathan. Well,
through WIPO and
Jonathan, just repeat your last sentence. You were cutting out.
Sorry about that. You can look at WIPO and National Arbitration Forum and many of the other UDRP panel providers have their case law, where you can go through and look at cases and what the outcomes were. And you can find where that argument gets used pretty frequently, that they have a lot of domains, and clearly that means that they're, a bad guy. The people complaining will use any leg they can stand on.
Yeah.
We could nicely, we could nicely extend it to people who have very many paintings, that they are hoarders. And especially the ones who have accumulated way too much money for any reasonable use.
Very good argument there.
Well,
I think Jonathan's sending the link. And, you know, at different times on the call, we've talked about things that would help the community or things that people may do that may hurt the community. There is no doubt that a single voice appearing at an ICANN meeting is sensed to have represented a bunch. And the more that the face of a multi-domain holder is seen as a reasonable person, a person who's participating, the more that we can introduce the concept of, if not this method, then what? How will you determine how many is too many? How will you determine people's true intent other than the person who says, I wish no one would have ever registered this? And so there's reasonableness on the other side, but if there's never another side present, then the side of these people gets to whine and whine and whine with nothing against them. And so I think that that's where the breadth that Jonathan's trying to bring, I think, from, you know, having more participants, you know, can help the industry by having us just show up and not have to be a gadfly or not have to do anything more than present, say, I affirm, yes, that's me too. And I think it can do nothing but help.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, I mean, hasn't there been any precedents about us being in business in terms of selling domain names? In other words, when Jonathan said, well, yeah, they haven't put this to use or they have not used it in business. I mean, we should be able to argue that by just having domain names and selling them is a business in itself. And so that justifies us from having it. I mean, I'm not an attorney either, but I have some legal background, and I think that that can be built upon if it can be shown that this is a legitimate business. People are buying and selling domain names, and they've been doing that for over 2 decades now. So that in
Joseph, that's exactly it. And because the at-large constituency is made up of people on all sides of it, we simply have to have. We can't let another group speak for the at-large constituency, like it was a state or like it was something, and present to the rest of ICANN as if there's a unified, resoluted opinion of the at-large constituency that a certain thought exists. And the more that it can be shown that there's not a clear-cut thing among the at-large constituency, the less likely it is that some of the other factions will use the at-large to propel a point that they want to get across. That's
okay. How do we do that? How do we make this other
you get involved in ICANN. Jonathan. Okay, first, I don't like to single out too many people here, but Jonathan's been extremely helpful with the socials to begin with. But also, Jonathan, outside of the socials, is a million times more helpful to all of us behind the scenes. He participates in a lot of stuff with ICANN. So next Tuesday, he like this week, he sent me a link for something that's happening next Tuesday with ICANN. I'm going to attend that. That's why I'm not doing the panel next week. So
right now, I would say attend.
Yeah.
They will see that there's more attendees than normal. If there's any chance to contribute via chat, they will see that there's other opinions than they may think, and it won't let a minority opinion be able to speak for the entire at-large constituency.
Yeah.
So I don't think it has to be super special other than some numbers that attend. Does that sound about right, Jonathan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I wanted to touch on something. And RF, thank you for your kind words, man. I like to come here and just be a guy.
I know. Sorry.
Sorry.
You're a bad guy. Sorry. Yeah.
Just a guy. I'm just a guy here, and humble, and I'm glad to be part of this. But thank you. I appreciate that. But I heard that these arguments get made about a variety of different things as somebody complains and fills out their opinion of the the UDRP, and the response has an opportunity to address those. The thing that we didn't talk about is that there are panelists, there are human beings making these decisions, and so if you have your argument seen by the right panelists, they may have their own biases or beliefs. And so, it's like anything, we have a lot of focus on the Supreme Court right now and what people bring to the party as far as how they're going to rule on things. And that happens, like I could say, you could put the same case, UDRP case, and have 3 different panelists and potentially get 3 different outcomes. So, I think that's something to factor into it. But just, follow some good practices in what you do. Now, as far as getting
thanks for asking
in
that question, Thomas, of what specifically could we do? And I think if we keep it in doable small chunks, no one person has to take on ICANN for the domaining community. It's just the fact that when they try to say, this is a fact, that anyone who owns more than 100 domainers is a hoarder and should be drawn and quartered, that then you say, I believe that's not correct. And someone else says, I don't believe that's correct. And someone else says, it doesn't seem like that's a fair assessment of the individual domain owner who may develop and or sell a lot of these domains. So it just gives some, some volume to the counter argument, because in a vacuum, one loud voice, which Jothan's hinting at, may try to present, can be seen as the majority opinion. Oh yeah, no one really, countered it. So thanks for asking, Thomas.
So I guess
one quick last
Jonathan, you're breaking up again.
2 quick points. Go ahead, Joe.
Wait, Jonathan, wait, hold on. Maybe turn off your video for a second. Sometimes it's the
Well,
stream.
he's running 2 instances.
Yeah, I've got the video off.
Okay,
No,
now
it's
you're
better.
I'm shutting that other one off.
Go ahead,
too.
Jonathan. Yeah.
So the 2 things. So first off, get involved and participate. Figure out where you fit. And a lot of times it's going to be the at-large. And for as much as this person is expressing their disdain for domain investors, look, you may actually find yourself in agreement with other things that are coming through the pipe in that group, and want to get involved in that. The other thing I'd say is, for the people who are the brand intellectual property people who are doing that enforcement, I've found it really helpful to show some empathy, to appreciate, to step into their shoes and to think like, what is it that they're hoping to accomplish here, right? Imagine you're working in a company, you're an attorney for them, or, in some IT role or something, and you have to deal with domain name issues as one of 50 different things. And, you find that there's a name that your company doesn't own that you feel it should, or somebody in your company feels it should. And they task you with going and making that happen. And what that experience is in that role for them. And for attorneys with the trademark stuff, there's even an additional thing that if they do have intellectual property, a brand can become diluted or even invalidated if they're not enforcing it consistently. And so they actually are compelled to be out there enforcing a brand or a trademark. So, for them, they deal with one person with a domain. They finally get through that arduous process. UDRP is not efficient for them. ACPA is not efficient for them. The conversations that they have with domain holders who want a lot of money for, potentially infringing brand, from their point of view, once they get through that, it's like they finally solve that in addition to their overall day job responsibilities. And then maybe another one pops up and another one pops up. It's like trying to fight the Hydra for them. So I think if we sit and we have some empathy, I know it may be hard for some, it may be easier for some, but if you have empathy for what their perspective and their struggles and challenges are, I have a lot better dialogue with them. And that's where I think the ICANN meetings in person help, because you can actually sit down with somebody with an incredibly opposite perspective and listen to what they have, and they'll listen to you, and you can actually get somewhere with that. So the virtual meeting thing is confounding, I think, some of this and untangling some of these thorny issues. And I'll let that conversation go because there's so much more we can talk about. But
by the way, when the issue was raised, were they targeting individuals, or were they considering also kinds like the huge domains and GoDaddy?
Well, sure. Or you know, think of large companies that have a lot of domains. I mean, Google or Amazon or Microsoft, they own a ton of names in their corporation. They're not cyber squatters.
A megatron.
What about the registries, though? They're holding all these names in reserve and holding them just for their own, you know, holdback, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the diamond market. If the bears poured everything out, what would happen?
I think all of our collective investments in the domain space, by speculating, has normalized the market and brought liquidity as well as infrastructure money for all these companies to do what they do. Without our resources for the last 20 years, they could not have built a lot of the things that we basically financed,
Exactly.
you know, on speculation alone.
Plus, it is not a limited resource. Let's say if somebody complains that had this domain name not been taken, I would have been able to take it. Just add a letter or two and use the same if it's just about an address.
Well, the other thing too is like I've used this argument before. You know, if somebody's upset that you have a domain that they have, it's like, well, you know, at least you're talking to me. I'm a nice guy. I'll give it to you at a reasonable price. Somebody else could have bought it and be charging 10 times the amount. So in a way, you know, I'm defending that name for the startup or the regular person.
Yeah.
Very good points. You know, even before finding out about the domain social, you know, years ago, I always knew about ICANN. And whenever someone talked about ICANN, I just responded, we can. Just think about that. Yeah, I mean, we can defend, and as Jonathan said, and a few other people here have said, yeah, we need to be able to have a collective voice and be able to defend what ICANN is trying to do, and the big corporations that seem to support ICANN and try to initiate UDRP. So if there is an ICANN, well, collectively, we can and we should defend our business, our industry.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is you can just introduce some basic facts like, you think because I registered it in 03 and you thought of it today, that if I didn't register, it would be available. Yeah. You're talking about 16 years of someone else building a business on it, registering it or something like that. So it's a real unrealistic opinion. But in a vacuum, it sounds reasonable, you know. Yeah. Oh, I should have this, you know. And
well, I think you're talking about like that recent very public space.com versus space.io thing where you had that I think a real you know, that I mean, if you stop and of course I have feels about how it was approached, but if you put yourself in the shoes of that business owner, you know, I can kind of see, I wouldn't have approached it the same way, but I get where they're at least emotionally with that.
Exactly. I mean, using that argument without naming any names right now, but I kind of alluded to that a couple of weeks ago, and when I was referring to something that Jonathan had sold, is that I actually prevented a UDRP being filed by just saying, hey, would your big company like to be known as not having registered or not having had the vision and now trying to come after me? And then I think that put them to their place. You know, I kind of gave them a piece of my mind, and that argument in itself, I think, prevented a UDRP being filed and perhaps that company being accused of reverse hijacking and being in the hall of shame. So yeah, let's not be afraid to defend our intellectual property and our vision for having registered something 5, 6, 10 years before somebody else is knocking on the door and now is making faces for not having that name at a very reasonable price.
Yeah, it's also important to point out that like we shouldn't be expecting like to be able to do anything either. UDRP is there, and on paper, it's a pretty reasonable standard. The problem comes in that with trademarks themselves, there are a lot of gray zones, right? The line is not always clear cut. And the secondary problem is that there have been a lot of UDRP decisions that didn't follow the guidelines that were very clear cut, wrong decision, flat out wrong decisions. So that's a separate issue. But to change to say, no, well, we should be able to register anything. I agree there should be ground rules. I agree that we shouldn't go over overtly obvious trademarks. I'm totally fine with that. But at the same time, when they start trying to change the rules to things that don't really apply to trademarks, like how many domains we owe has zero to do with whether or not we infringe on trademarks knowingly or not. Somebody could be knowingly a problem case registering trademarks with 10 domains, and somebody with 10,000 domains could have zero, and yeah, the fact that if you had, a large number of UDRP cases held against you, that can be held against you. I mean, that's kind of reasonable, but again, it should be really case by case. Is this the domain infringing or not? And there is a gray zone for domains, and I understand that, like for us, we had this discussion a few times whether full names, first name plus last name, is that specific enough to be infringing or not? It's a gray zone. I think it is, but others people think it's not, and that's fine. It's like one of those things where, yeah, maybe there is no end result, or there's maybe different arguments that could win in some cases, otherwise no. But, for the others, there's a lot of ones that are very clear cut, and in those, we shouldn't register those, and we shouldn't try to change that rule. But again, when they try and change other rules, like this volume thing, like how many domains we have, like it has zero relevance to how we're likely or not to infringe on trademarks.
Talking about trademarks, just to be sure that, like if I'm about to hand register the domain name or buy a closeout domain name, what I first do is check the US PTO site just to make sure that there is not an existing trademark. But if I see that it's like a dead trademark, or there are a myriad of varying trademarks, then I'm not, then I go ahead and register that domain name. I mean, is there any place else I should check, or just making sure that this is not an exact match of anything in USPTO is enough for that test? Anybody else have any suggestions on where to check?
I check Google. I mean, at a certain point, you're not necessarily, you're responsible to a certain degree, but you're not responsible for knowing every single trademark there is out there either. That's what I'm saying. It's gray zones, unfortunately, in that, if you come up with an idea and you register it and somebody else has it, oftentimes, and theoretically, it's up to the trademark owner to defend their trademark. So yeah, they might come after you. If they come after you after 6 months, then yeah, it's reasonable for them to say, okay, figure out whether it's infracting or not, where you can work out a deal, or whether you're in the wrong. You might be or not, but after 3 years, or if you registered the domain before them, they can't say anything. Anyway.
So I saw an interesting UDRP complaint today regarding, what's the domain? Cooper's Hawk.
It's a restaurant.
Yeah, it's a Canadian restaurant. They got a Canadian trademark in 2012 and 2008 in the US. The domain itself was registered in 2001. So and they made an offer of $5,000, and their IT person just didn't, want to pay more. And I think the problem is there's a delusion that once they get the trademark, they are entitled to the matching.com domain name, which is false. But I think what we need to do is maybe do an education campaign. I think that this needs to be shared amongst lawyers, because the only way we're going to reduce the amount of UDRPs is to educate lawyers about what is a fair UDRP and what's totally off base and is just bullying. Because, do I have $5,000 to defend every single domain name I own? No. But, I've done a few UDRPs, and it's not fun.
Yeah, I think with that, I mean, the tool is already there, right? I mean, it's just that they need to enforce reverse UDRP a little bit more often when it actually is, because there's a lot of times when it has been, and they just let, they end the case. They go, okay, you don't win the domain, but they don't impose a penalty. And there should be a penalty. If you go after somebody claiming they have your trademark and they're in the wrong, there should be a penalty against
Yeah, there should be sanctions against the attorney for filing a baseless UDRP. But unless they're filing something in federal court, there's no sanctions against that attorney. Maybe there is, you know, in the United States, if you file some sort of complaint with the state bar, that's possible. Maybe the same in Canada. But I think it's partly educational, as an educational issue, and part of it is there are people, lawyers at big firms, who think they can roll a dice and see, okay, how much money can we outspend this person? And that's what happened to me with my michaels.ca domain name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, if I had an extra $100 or $200,000, I probably would have won. And they wouldn't have gotten a domain for like whatever they spent in litigation, which is probably about 150,000. So.
All right. Well, I guess we'll.
I hate the end of that story. I hope there's a sequel where you win.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah. So the other just quick comment. So I've pitched, you know, attend the ICANN meeting. There's this and other important stuff. Follow that. Follow it closely. If you aren't able to, support the ICA, donate money to them, become a member. They're really actively engaged in these discussions. And I think, you know, for us who participate peripherally, I participate deeply in the ICANN stuff, but for those who participate peripherally or just get your opinions of ICANN from read blogs and
Oh, Johnson, you're going Darth Vader again.
or get on lists.
Johnson, you're breaking up again. Hold on. Yeah. But anyway, so I'll just jump in and say,
Yeah, I'll shut off my video. So
I joined the ICA 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, the ICA, it stands for Internet Commerce Association, for those of you who don't know, but it's basically for domainers. It's Zach Muskovich is their general counsel. He does a lot of work that is really pro-domainer stuff. So by supporting them, you're supporting his work in interacting with the ICA and other things. Again, and also, I mean, if you guys want to get involved, reach out to Jonathan too. Jonathan knows a lot of stuff, and he could, if you approach him with something, you want to help out with something, he could point you in a good direction of where to get started.
Jonathan, you had a couple of the thoughts, Jonathan?
Jonathan,
you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear you now, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not breaking up. So I turned off my video. Hopefully this will work. All I was going to say is, support the daylights out of the ICA. They're there. It's a tree that fell in the woods that you don't hear. Nobody's there to hear, you know, to see it or hear it, that it happens. But they're very active and they really are working hard. Not just Zach and Kamala, but also, you know, many of the board members. I've seen, you know, at the ICANN meeting in Japan. I saw, you know, Ari, you know, take the mic. I've seen Nat actively speaking and participating in groups. Support them as much as you can. They really will save your bacon at some point, but it's just the right thing to do.
And the other tip I may give, and I think Jonathan can speak to this, is if you do go to the meeting and you try and you volunteer or get involved, even in peripheral matters, if they need someone to help on a committee or a something or other that's not related to, you know, UDRPs and domains and that type of thing, by playing a part in that, you build up your credibility and you build relationships that when it comes back around, you're then seen as more of a community member who's helping in various areas. And a lot of times that may even be a role where if people are seen to have a vested interest in something, their opinions are discounted, and then they go to the other constituencies to get a sense of fairness of what should be done. So if you've got the energy and the aptitude to help out on the at-large constituency in various areas, it makes a difference when it comes down to things that affect you. And so that would be my encouragement after watching him for 17 or 18 years.
Yeah, thanks, Paige. All right, so on that note, I think we'll maybe switch topics to something maybe a little more domainy. I think I thought in the chat, Jonathan, you had one more thing to say?
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, let's pivot.
Yeah,
because I'm afraid we're going to thin out the crowd talking this crowd.
It doesn't matter. It's a good topic. It's important. Anyhow, so somebody was talking. Somebody was mentioning a domain they wanted to review. With business coaching, I think it was. Who brought that up in the chat?
I was kind of curious what people think the end user value of that is.
Was it business coaching? Sorry, because I don't see the chat. I got.
Yeah, but businesscoaching.com. It's an auction at GoDaddy. It runs till Monday, and I was kind of curious what people thought the value would be to end users.
Go ahead. Anybody who wants to reply?
6 figures at least. 6 figures for sure. In the right hands.
Yeah, it'd be good for someone who can't get a business coach.
I mean, I know in the real estate space, I mean, it's a business, so it's a sub-industry, but there's guys out there that are charging, you know, $1,200 to $1,500 a month, and then they're coaching thousands of people at that rate. So you do the math there, and that's just one industry.
Yeah.
If you look at Facebook right now, one of the biggest like online make money schemes is coaching, business coaching, and it's been proliferated by you know, the younger kids getting in and making hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars doing online coaching. So yeah, I mean, if this domain gets into the right hands, it'd be pretty valuable.
I guess the argument would be is, you know, what is businesscoach.com developed, and who's got that one?
Yeah, it's a developed site. Businesscoach.com is.
Is it legit, or is it just?
Oh yeah, oh, it's 100% legit.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what I'm doing on YouTube, whenever I'm watching stuff, like every 3 minutes of video, I get an ad, like it's like 5 minutes long, saying, okay, I'll give you tips on, you know, converting this, or all kinds of business stuff. It's big business. It's big. I think the ing in this one doesn't hurt it as much as most conventional ones. I think the business coaching versus business coach is obviously the better one by a fair margin, but I think business coaching still works. It's almost a little bit different in that you're talking about the business and people who are, you know, trying to start coaching businesses.
You know, I just looked at name bio, and smallbusinesscoaching.com back in 2013 only did, surprisingly, $1,145. And
where?
Free business coaching was
on what venue?
GoDaddy, and then free business was on Afternic. But small business coaching, I could see that as a you know, as its own category versus business coaching. But I mean, if you take it up magnitude, it only brings you up to 5 figures there, which is kind of surprising. But that's the 2013.
Yeah, that's wholesale pricing, most likely.
Just a data point.
Yeah, so I'm getting private messages from a few people.
I'll
Guys,
jump in on business coaching. I
Go
think
ahead.
that the price that you'd be willing to pay probably depends on your business model. You know, if you can buy it for 11 to 12,000 and try to wait to get 100, you know, you have to be ready to do that, to kind of say that's your business, in my opinion. I don't think if you can get it for 11 or 12, it's like, oh, I can get 20 out of this whenever I want to. I think you still need to be lucky, timing, the right buyer that wants to spend the right amount of money, but you've certainly got quality. The fact that it is a GoDaddy auction means it's going to be hard to pay fair wholesale when it makes the most bid on name, and you've probably got other people that think they can extract $250 from it maybe. So, but if you can use it, that changes everything, because if you can earn $1,000 a month from business coaching, then you can pay the name off in 11 months if you pay 11 grand for it. And, you know, that changes everything. So, you know, what's it worth? You know, what should it go for? I tend to think it could go possibly under 10, but I'm thinking it'll go over 10. And I don't know if GoDaddy has bidder restrictions above 10, but sometimes that can limit how high it goes above 10 if not everybody can play. And I don't know what the answer to that is.
It's already at 13,000. So
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
But that is a great name for like if you want to do affiliate sales too. You know, there's so many business coaches out there. You could plug in and launch them all from here. You probably could make some pretty good money with it, I would think.
Anybody else have anything they want to bring up?
I just saw on auctions on GoDaddy auctions. It's just funny, but somebody is selling mikeman.domains.
Like .com?
No, .domains. Mikeman.domains.
Oh, .domains. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
You know, I got a question. For an observation, we were talking about the warehousing of the domains and the concern for people coming after us for owning too many. What do you do with services like Dan, where you have a little landing page that says you have all of these total number of domains in your portfolio? Should that be something we should be a private seller for rather than putting ourselves out to a radar? What does everybody think?
Well, again, we talked about it before, but I don't think there is any answer to that. In theory, it should be something we worry about. But I mean, if it's going to change, then you know, that's something that maybe Dan should change. But right now, I don't think it's an issue, and I don't think we should worry about that. So.
But I will say, if you didn't think that information was out there before, and you're with Dan or FD, it's going to be easier to get by knowing one of your names, how many total names you own, either on this new FD marketplace thing where they can put the name in, see who it is, and then see all the other names, or on the stuff Dan's doing with syndication. So if you thought that wasn't out there, I know FD had a process where you could not opt into their new marketplace, and I'm trying to understand that. But those two marketplaces are going to make it easier for someone to get to know that you're in the business of selling names.
So Mike, you raise a great point. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you raise a very good point. Dan lets you turn that on or off. You can opt to not show that in your control panel. I found that. I choose to show it. But for those people who are going to make those, like use that number of domains that you own as some form of a vector, there are a variety of ways that can obtain that using some of the methods that these market providers use to verify the ownership of a domain, right? On Dan, you know, if you put a domain in and it's a domain that may have been sitting in another account, or they want to validate that you truly own it, you have to add a third name server. And that's going to show up in the zone file. And those will be a way to group your ownership when you use those. Same thing with a few of the other providers. The only way that I've seen that really work effectively has been with the method that Sato uses, where they invent a very long specific host and have you enter a CNAME into the DNS. It's harder to do, but it gives that same validation without somebody being able to reverse engineer your portfolio using either like text records or name servers that are tied to the main host. So the people who are going to come through and try to sue you for the name or take the name and argue that you are a bulk holder will very likely have these reports, because that will be part of the tool set that inform that you have it. And so they will have a list of other names, and that list will probably be fairly recent because they can obtain it through the DNS. And that's not protected. It's public information.
All right, yeah, Afzal, you sent me a message. So you have a domain you sold recently? And get to, oh, okay, so, all right, never mind. Anybody sell anything lately?
I talked about it the other day, but I sold glasses.io.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sold it on Dan. And people chose the monthly payment option, which I think is actually pretty cool. I've got 3 domains now on monthly payments, which I don't mind. I'd be curious to hear what everybody else thinks about the financing option on Dan.
I'd want to check in with you after about 4 months from now.
Yeah. Now I have had one dropout, but I mean, I don't really mind because they rented it for 4 months at, you know, $100 a month. So I sold the domain and I got $400 rent. So like, I think it's awesome, actually.
What was the, like, over how many, what was the period of time that they were supposed to rent it for?
In that particular case, it was a brandable domain. I had priced it with Nameworth, which is an interesting story because Nameworth priced it at $5,400. And that was a domain that I would have priced at maybe like $1,680 or something like that. So I went with the Nameworth pricing and I got a purchase over 60 months. And I forget what it was exactly, but I think it was $100 a month, something like that, 102 or something. And, you know, they kept it up for like 4 months time. And then they dropped it. So I basically got $400 free rent. Now, would they have purchased it outright if I had priced it like at $1,688 instead of going with the Nameworth pricing? I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think that system works really good. The financing system does work. The only problem that I have with it is that I think it's confusing to an end user to come to the site or the landing page for domain and see, you know, lease this domain for whatever, $452 a month. I think that might throw people off right away. For people who don't know that it's a rent to own or it's a finance over a certain number of months or whatever. So maybe in the way the landing pages are designed, with the search results work, you know, it could be maybe shown a little bit differently. Not sure exactly, but yeah, I think I like it. I have financing turned on for all of my domains, and I'd love to build up, you know, monthly income just on domain financing. If they drop out, great, we'll just put them back up for sale again.
The only downside I can think of is if the person that rented your name for 3 or 4 months, if he abused it, you know, and
yeah,
some black hat stuff or something, that would be the only downside, I think.
It's true. I mean, it's possible, but at this point, I mean, it's all just inventory to me. I'm not like emotionally tied to domains, and they're not high ticket domains either. So the chances of them being like blacklisted due to, you know, black hat SEO or whatever is pretty slim. And in the most part, these are brandables anyway. They're not meant for SEO value, right? I don't know. It just doesn't really bother me. I'd be happy for people to rent the domains, even if they want to try to resell them. I've heard that some people do that on huge domains, but it's against the TOS. I'm okay with that. If they want to take an option out on the domain and pay $100 a month and try to sell it for more to somebody else, that means that they're out there doing the legwork of the sales. And if they make a sale, I'm going to get my cut because they have to buy it outright, which is going to accelerate the payment plan. And the way Dan works is, I believe, and you guys could maybe confirm, but if somebody pays out the financing option early, I think they have to pay the full amount. So you still get the 10, 20, or 30 points financing if somebody buys it out early.
I think with that kind of stuff, you got to be a little bit careful because, yeah, it's in theory, it's great that they might sell the domain. I mean, if they do it in a legitimate way, that doesn't burn all your leads if they don't buy it. Because the thing is, like, they might take it for $100 in the first month, and then burn out all your leads, spam like crazy, and then not pay any more, and you're left with a domain that has no more possibility of doing outbound.
Sure.
Right? And so maybe if you, I don't know if Dan allows you to have like a top heavy sort of like with it where your first payment is a lot more than the further payments, that would maybe make it at least more worth your while, or less likely that you'll have people doing that.
Sure.
But that's a big danger, and I know a lot of people have mentioned before that it's you know, if that's why they don't want people to be able to resell domains on that they're renting, specifically, or leasing, specifically because they would just burn it out, and they would probably use all kinds of methods that are not quite up to your personal standards, you know?
Yeah, but there's, you know, there's a flip side to everything. Maybe someone goes and sends out those emails, then he gives the name back to you, and someone remembers it 4 months from now. I just can't. I'd congratulate you, because I feel like you've taken a measured approach, you've weighed the pros and cons, and you know what you think. So you know what you think. So when when you get an opportunity, you're not having to re-go through the pros and cons again. You're like, this is what I've decided I'm comfortable doing, you know? And I think that is going to point to success, because you've already thought it out, and you've said, this is, you know, my plan. And I like it. I think it sounds great.
What actually would be kind of interesting, now that I think about it, would be maybe to have, for Dan to have that be an option you put that could be part of the terms of the sale or not. Like you just do a check mark saying, I allow the sale of my domains, I don't allow the leasing of my domains to be sellable, or yes or no, you know, and there could be certain rules or guidelines, or, I mean, it does complicate things a bit, but I mean, I know there's definitely huge pros and cons in this.
For sure, yeah. You know, but I look at it as, you know, the goal here is for these domains to not be finite resources, right? To have a big pool of inventory, and any sale is a good sale, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, if these were high ticket domains, like I would probably take a different approach. But I look at this as, hey, we got to get one way or another, you know, to 3,000 domains or 5,000 domains. In that case, each and every one is just an item in inventory, right? It's not like a scarce resource, right? And the more exposure, the better. You know, I agree that, like, if Dan would have some form of a down payment, like you know, even like a $300 down payment on a $2,000 domain, would keep out the you know, the bad apples. But for the most part, I'm okay with you know, non-commissioned salespeople come and trying to sell my domain for me. I think it's cool.
I mean, as long as you saw your name for your price, then
exactly. Because I've set my price up front, right? Whether I get it, you know, over 36 months from payments, or somebody front runs it and finds a buyer. It's a deep ocean, like you say, about the burning up the leads. I think, you know, for choosing domains right, there's always another buyer that's going to come along, right? I think it'd be really hard to completely deplete the buyer pool for these names.
No, I agree. I didn't mean necessarily burn up the leads. I just mean that they might use methods that are more questionable, like spam and
yeah, I mean, I could definitely agree with that. Like, I don't want my domains to be spammed, right? That will taint domains, at least with those people that they've reached out to. It's a deep pool of buyers, right? And another buyer is going to come along tomorrow, the way I look at it.
Yeah. But Ken, just as Arif suggested, what if we just wrote,
and I have a question.
Wrote to Reza with a suggestion that we would have an option for the financing plan to make the first down payment to determine, be it 10% or 20% or 30%.
I do think that'd be a good option.
Yeah, Epic has that. I don't know. I'm not familiar with Dan, so I, don't know. I would have thought they did have that.
But we could write to them. I think, Braden, you probably know Reza. So if we just wrote to him, I'm pretty sure he's open to good suggestions, and it would just add flexibility to the marketplace.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be a really good option.
I mean, that doesn't mean that they're going to dedicate, you know, development time to making these changes, but he's certainly a reasonable guy.
Maybe he'll leave it undeveloped.
Well, I think either way, even without the other stuff we're talking about, I think having the option of having your first payment being a little bit heavier, a little bit larger, it's an option that's, you know, important for some people.
You guys, since we were talking about Dan and upfront bigger payments. Do you guys know of anywhere where they take balloon payments at the end? Because I've had to turn down offers where they wanted to be able to do, you know, a balloon payment at the end, and we couldn't get it to work out.
Escrow.com. Yeah. Well, and Epic as well. I had a sale at Epic with a balloon payment.
What was the first one you said?
Mike said escrow.com.
Oh, escrow. Oh, okay. All right.
But escrow.domains might too, Steve Lieberman. Just a kind of a custom agreement.
Oh.
I think with escrow too, they can escrow.com. But I'm definitely assuming with escrow.domains, if there's options that you want to do that's not necessarily there, they can work that in behind the scenes.
Okay.
So it might be a little bit more of a pain in the you know where, but you know, it's not something that's undoable. I've heard of you know, unique sort of payment structures that were not listed on the site that they, you know, if you contact them, they could work it into it.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, does anyone use on Epic in bulk? Because like I'll buy a bunch of names, and it's really easy right after I buy them to bulk set up the payment with the 25% down, which is what I do like. But man, the process of going in there and trying to do that with existing names, do they have a download a spreadsheet, change it all, upload, or does anyone manage that in bulk?
I think they do. I've never done it, and I don't know if that particular data field would be there. But I know they keep on changing and adding more stuff, so it is something to check out.
Paige, my suggestion is just ping Rob, either email or Skype, and tell them what you need done. I mean, you know, if you need something done in bulk, they can just do it for you in-house, which is what I do.
Thank you, Braden.
That's time consuming. I can do it.
I'm usually sent to an article to read how to do it, and I don't have the patience sometimes to read how to do it. But I'll give it a try.
Yeah, just ask. You know, if you're giving them money, they're going to help you.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah,
Mike, you just got an inquiry you want to talk about?
Thanks, Braden.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I won't say the name, but it's awful fun to have an inquiry come in. Hey, how much is a domain name while you're sitting here talking about names? And I could tell from the email address that it was somebody who would use the name. It's not just a fishing expedition. So that's fun.
Yeah. For first, I don't know, 5 or 6 socials I attended at the beginning, I would get like during the social, I would always get an offer. It was like good luck. And now lately, I don't have time to check my emails anymore. So I don't know. I'll check afterwards. But yeah.
All right, I got one for you guys. Sportas, Sportis, Sportas, Sportis. I put in the thing, sportas.tv. As far as this white kid from Tennessee knows, I put it in Google. I think it might be sports in Portuguese maybe or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So I put it for sale for $5,000. And since 2013, I have a prospect who sent me his annual email saying, would I sell it for $1,000? And no doubt, if I look at the Uniregistry history, it is October 3rd, 2019, October 3rd, 2018. $1,000 for a .tv doesn't happen every day of the month. What do you guys think?
He's been asking for how many years?
We have a thread. I've had different prices between $19.99 to $34.99, back to $14.99. We almost had it done at $1,500 in 2015, and he couldn't figure out PayPal. So now he's got a Uniregistry broker involved, and you know how those guys operate. I totally got $1,000 for you for this name. Let's close it, you know. And anyway, what do you guys think?
Did anybody else ask?
No.
Paige, did you have contact with him before the Uni broker got involved?
Yes.
Okay, you can tell Uni to bow out. If you had previous, because they have their systems, if you're previously talking to somebody and then that person inquires about another name, then they're in the system, and then from then on, all the contacts are going to go to them and not you.
Yeah.
But you just need to let them know that you've previously engaged with this person. They'll bow out. Once that happens, now there's more margin for you, right? And I'm not saying, you know, screw the broker.
Thanks for that encouragement, because
but if you've originated that that contact, then it's yours and not theirs.
I've done that.
No, I've definitely done it, and I not only have I done that, but I've gone through the system with Alan Shiflett about why it happens, and it's just how their system is set up, so that it always favors the house, right? But if you just let them know, they'll bail out. And there's been a number of occasions where I've been in contact with somebody, and then they inquire about some other name, and then from then on, all the inquiries, including that one, goes to the broker. Even though,
yeah, that's exactly how. That's exactly how it would happen.
So get rid of the broker so you can go back direct again.
Right.
And so my suggestion is to go back to the $1,500 since he had agreed to that.
Yeah.
And sell that damn name. Get out from under it because the name sucks. I mean, you've got like a Lithuanian or Portuguese name on a .tv. For Christ's sake, dump it. For whatever you can get.
Here, Google Translate says it's Lithuanian for sports. Yeah.
So that's my advice.
It is Lithuanian?
Yeah, what's this? Yeah, Google Translate, the reverse translate, well, detected language is Lithuanian. So maybe there's other languages. That's the only thing with Google Translate is that it'll just show you one and you'll never see if there's more because it'll always go to the first one it finds. But it is at least Lithuanian, maybe others.
All right, appreciate it, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, how long have you had it for again, you said?
A while.
Okay.
2013.
Yeah, it's sports.
7 times
even
26,
in another language.
$140, $182 in renewal. So.
Don't do that to yourself.
It's not the SLD that's the problem. It's the TLD that's the problem.
Well, sports. Well, yeah, okay. Sports in Lithuanian, yeah, it's a little bit of a stretch for TV.
You know, Byron Allen owns a lot of .tv names, and he owns several sports .tvs, like ESS Sports or something. He owns a number of them. I saw him speak last week, and he was talking about how he got in there and bought a lot of .tv, and, you know, he owns the Weather Channel and stuff now. But it's the first time I've heard him come out and talk a whole lot about encouraging people to buy digital real estate, you know, buy land. So he's kind of the .tv guy. His name's Byron Allen.
Is that Byron Allen, the actor?
Yeah, he was a comedian, and now he's a billionaire guy. You know,
he owns a production company. I've met him a couple times. He's a nice guy, but he's a producer.
Watch him.
Yeah, Mike, you're saying it's registered in 20 TLDs?
Well, yes. Actually, that end in Sportas because it was a larger list. If it was included anywhere, you know, in the word, but in that case, it's well, no, I take that back. It's ending in on the .db.
Appreciate it.
Sell it.
Oh.
Anybody else have any questions or have any recent sales they want to talk about, or have a sale they're working on they want advice on?
I'm trying to buy a name on NameJet right now, and people keep chasing me, driving up the price. I hate it when that happens.
Don't they know?
Right.
They get somebody to start dancing on the call here to distract people from the auctions.
I'm bidding on trialrun.com. Anybody else bidding on that on this call?
Great.
Now.
I was in early, but I'm out. I'm not hurting you.
What's that now?
Yeah, it's at 4,600 now.
Oh,
That's low.
Trial run.
It's a good domain. I like it.
What would you do with it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to know.
What would I do with it, or what would someone do with it? The ultimate buyer. You know, there actually are companies named Trial Run.
Oh,
You know, it's like to test something.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's almost like I could take a trial run of owning or using your product in exchange for paying big bucks later on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, how much is it worth retail? What do you guys think?
Trial run.
Dun, 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 dun,
Is that what they call when a pharmaceutical company is doing testing? Is that called a trial run or no?
Called a trial.
Okay, all right.
I guess that would be the key, Braden, if you really wanted to get into it. If you could have like the Iron Man with all the data at your fingertips, how many businesses actually use the word trial run as opposed to test run, test period, free trial? And I would say that there's a chance that free trial has so dominated that industry that maybe it's nudged down trial run from where it might have been 10 years ago.
I think those are two totally different markets. A free trial is, you know, you get something for free, right?
Yeah.
And a trial run is somebody that, you know, tests your products, tests your software.
But that's a pretty big business. There seems to me, what's it called there? It's not like with like product, the people get sent products ahead of time that they sort of review. There's a term for that. I forget what it is.
Samples?
What is it?
You're talking about the companies that get like 10 people in a room and they give them a product, or like on Amazon where they give away a product for reviews, you know, a couple years ago, obviously. But that's the same idea.
Yeah, although there's companies that do that, like not with people in the same room, just to do it remotely, where they'll send you stuff just to test things out, beta test, or beta test is more for software. Trial run, I think, would be more for like physical products and maybe, I mean, it could be used for software too.
Rob Monster has the right answer. Focus group.
Yeah.
I used to do those when I was a kid for money.
But they pay okay, I think.
I would do it now for more money.
COVID vaccine.
You gotta stay focused.
Yeah, I still get called 2 or 3 times here to do them, and it's a quick 50 or $100, and all good.
I get those from GoDaddy. I've shared some stuff with GoDaddy, and it's just please do it, and it's like, you know, sometimes they'll do it and they're like, oh, great ideas. I'm like, yeah, but this is all stuff you should have thought of 5 years ago, you know. It's like, but I don't know if any of you have participated in that, but yeah, GoDaddy does that from time to time. Give me $100 here and there for that. I forget what it was, but okay, it was not even about the money for GoDaddy. It was just like anything to make their platform less buggy. It's like, please.
Not to segue into something different, but talking about GoDaddy, I just found out something, because we talked about that on several domain socials before, about the WhoIs information and that being hidden and UDRP, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I just found out that under settings in GoDaddy, it is possible to turn off privacy protection so that all the WhoIs information is readily available. So I don't know if this is something new or not, but that answers a lot of questions for me. So I just turned that off, and all my domain names are out there with my contact information. So I don't know if this is something new, but you can turn off privacy protection under settings at GoDaddy. I just wanted to mention that.
Wow. I think the new one, what's it called? It's it's R something. It's not the WhoIs anymore. It's called something else that's similar. It's because of the
it's called RDAP.
Yeah, RDAP. That's it. Oh, thanks, Rob. Yeah.
Well, whatever it is, I mean, that's really, I mean, if it is your registrant information out there as to how they can contact you, your phone number, your email, etc., it's out there right now by just turning off privacy protection.
That's
so
good.
that's GoDaddy has done.
Yeah, that's good, because that was an issue with GoDaddy. Like, not all Rob's there. Not all registrars are as easy as Epic, where it's just click and it's done. You know, with GoDaddy, I think a lot of it was a switchover. You know, because when they went from the WhoIs to RDAP, I mean, look, in fairness to the registrars, it's not an easy thing to switch that over, because the whole European laws are, once you get hit by a fine, like you're talking millions of dollars. I think Jonathan mentioned it in a previous social, where the fines are like 4% of your gross annual income for the company, or maybe it's not that high, but it's a heavy penalty for a company like GoDaddy. Could cost them 8 figures possibly, you know, millions and millions. And so then for them to sort of like err on the side of caution, I can understand that a little bit. But at some point, yeah, I mean, I sold several of my domains because of the WhoIs information being public. Exactly. So I mean, it's a you know, it's a big factor. So it's good to hear. Was it a master setting, or do you have to do them one by one?
No, it's a master setting. Just go under settings, and then you have turn on privacy protection, which is the default, and then you have the turn off privacy protection, and all your domains, they just right away, just one master setting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you do that, just expect a lot of phone spam afterwards. Because I'll tell you what, when they locked up that the privacy a little bit, my phone calls went significantly down.
I know.
Well, I haven't touched any of mine. I'm trying to think. No, I still had calls for a while. The last month hasn't been so bad, but that change at GoDaddy was longer than a month ago. So
no, I know.
I have half my domains at GoDaddy, half of them are Epic, and so I don't know which is which. I haven't checked that, but yeah, it's good to know. It's important.
Exactly. I mean, I also have quite a few domains at DirectNick, and their default is for that to be open. So it's different. With DirectNick, all the info is out there, and it's helped me very much. It's helped me sell a few domain names by incoming calls and emails.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Rob.
Yep, no worries. RDAP.
Yeah.
The funny thing about RDAP, and Jonathan knows this because he's on the inside of some of these conversations even more than I am. But you know, RDAP has actually also been set up in such a way that I think the next step is to allow approved individuals, that would include certain members of law enforcement, to be able to, in theory, pierce the privacy veil. And this is not something that's being openly discussed, but I think that behind the scenes, there's an active expectation that at some point, RDAP will basically have privacy in theory, but in practice, there will be some authorized entities that will be able to pierce the privacy veil. I hope it never happens, but there are some ICANN level conversations that are certainly intimating in that direction. So privacy, as you know, it might change. That's what I would give you as a heads up. You can still own any domain though through a legal entity. So as long as it is a natural person or a legal entity, you can actually still have your own privacy. So you can either use a privacy proxy like Anonymize, that's the Epic privacy proxy, which actually will be the legal entity that stands in for the natural individual, or set up your own, right? But at some point, the data that you have behind the scenes with your registrar could suddenly be pierced through the privacy veil by an authorized individual. And who exactly decides who becomes an authorized individual? Yeah. Well, that's where the rubber hits the road, and there's not a lot of transparency in my personal assessment as to what's happening vis-a-vis the allowance of who can get on that list. Interpol on down, right? You know, that's the thing that is unknown.
So you're saying it would be, they would have automatic access. Like right now, I mean, it's on theory, it doesn't sound too different from what it is right now with privacy, because they can still get a court order and get the WhoIs with a court order. But you're saying that they wouldn't need the WhoIs at that point? I mean, they wouldn't.
Yeah, it would be like the equivalent of a no-knock warrant.
Wow.
They would just be able to look you up because they're an authorized individual. I don't agree with that practice. I think privacy is a right, not a privilege. and I have ardently defended the utility.
I could give you credit for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I fought that battle, and I have the scars to prove it. But you know, at the end of the day, the direction the world is going is that you know, guilt until proven innocent, and that would include turning privacy into a privilege as opposed to a right. And at some point, the switch will flip, and I'm not sure everybody will be told. But you should be aware that RDAP is heading in the direction of providing a unified framework for structured data as it relates to personal ownership of domains. And the framework is set up in such a way that there will be authorized individuals that have the ability to pierce the privacy veil. So you should be very cognizant of the actual natural person identity or legal entity identity that you put in your WhoIs record, even if you have privacy free or not. At some point, RDAP will do what it was designed to do, which is to basically allow authorized individuals to pierce the privacy veil and do it in a way that is still GDPR compliant.
And that would be, I'm assuming, like unrecorded or untraceable.
You will not.
You wouldn't know.
There'll be an audit trail of which authorized individual pierced the privacy veil and when, and
but you wouldn't have
a record of why. But I don't believe that the person who was basically being surveilled will be told.
Hey, speaking of privacy stuff, I was watching CNBC today, and I guess there's a movie out that really tries to open up Google and Facebook in terms of how they do behavioral modification and a lot of their
social
data
dilemma.
Stuff. What's that?
The social dilemma.
The social
There's a
dilemma.
second one now that just came out that goes into Cambridge Analytica, and it's really fascinating. It just showed up on Netflix the other day. So it comes out after, it came out after Social Dilemma.
Yeah, I think it's an older one, but I think maybe on Netflix now. But I think I saw that one. It's really eye-opening how much. I mean, but I've always been interested in that sort of subject, and yeah, privacy is we have a lot less than we think, you know, and sometimes it's not necessarily, you know, a bad thing when certain companies have some data, but other data is, you know, there's a lot more in people that is out there that we realize.
Don't you think there could be a market for an app that would just do random searches that have nothing to do with your actual psychographic profile or whatever, just to mess with them? You know, you're looking for something that's totally nothing to do with anything you have any interest of. Just occasionally, it just does an automatic Google search for something, just to mess up the algorithms and show them who's boss.
Until Google's something that gets you in trouble.
Well, you see, the irony is that for me personally, if certain things are done in certain ways that are anonymous, it doesn't bother me. Like if they check some stuff just only enough to know that, you know, they would just say, show me razor commercials instead of tampon commercials, then I'm fine with that. Like, but it's just the problem is, where do you draw the line? You know, because customized advertising, that doesn't bother me. But if it gets to the point where it can be traced back to me personally, then it's like, yeah, then that becomes an issue. If it's just a cookie that's, you know, anonymous and it's a number, it's not a big deal.
When you think about all the domains that we register, every once in a while it's just something that has nothing to do with anything you're really interested in. It's like, that's a good idea. And you register it and you hold it for 5 or 6 or 10 or 15 years anyway. And then you sell a few of them. Some of those were, you know, it's just.
Yeah, but this was more just a selectivity about furthering their goals for conflict or your mental state of mind, that, you know, if they put barriers in front of you, that makes you not want to keep going. But if they put things that would feed your expected outcome, then you stay on longer, and just, you know, a lot more than just, I used to have a browser, I think it was like a Firefox add-on that would show me when I went to a web page how many data points and how many people were collecting data off me from just, you know, that one instance or something.
But still, page, of course, that's they want you to be engaged in some way or another, even if it's just yelling at your former friend about a political choice that he's made. But by putting those random relevant things in there, it would make them harder. it would make it harder for them to do it, I would think.
No, I feel like it would be like a radar jammer or a white noise thing that you might put out to, you just want something to just mess up your data profile, you know, once a day so that they couldn't get a handle on you or something.
So in some ways, these mixers are a bunch of us collecting data ourselves, right? With the comments and into our brains, you know, ideas. It seems like a data collection that's just not one that's, you know, technology. Maybe not.
I have a question for Braden if he's willing to talk.
Yeah, sure. Actually, David, 1 second. While you guys, in the next little conversation point, we're going to get to the auctions in maybe 10, 15 minutes. I'm just going to run a couple of polls in the background. So just answer them and just continue talking. You know, act as if the polls aren't there. Just want to get some feedback from some of you guys on the socials themselves. So go ahead, David. Sorry.
All right. So when you get an offer for a domain name, and say it's a $5,000 offer or something that's you know, nowhere near what you want to get, how do you approach the conversation if you use an anonymous platform where you don't know who the buyer is? Do you just put out your six-figure number, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, I have a generic response. I get inquiries every day, multiple inquiries a day, and you know, most of them are tire kickers, right? Or they, you know, they think a domain is $10. So I just have a template response that says something like, we value this name in the US 6-figure range or 5-figure range or whatever it is. Feel free to make an offer in that range. And then I never hear back from them. So that's just a way to weed out people that aren't serious. I mean, I had a guy this morning that said, do you have time for a call about this name? And I said, what's up? You know, and he says, I'd like to talk about this name. I'm like, would you like to buy it? Right? I mean, I don't even want to get on the phone with this guy. It's a name that's listed for $5,500, and saying he wants to buy it. Tell me that he used to own it, or I should give it to him, or something. So, you know, I'm not going to even bother getting on a call unless he tells me that he's interested in buying it and maybe wants to make a payment plan or something. So I typically just try to weed out the people that are inquiring more than anything else. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, to some extent. Like I've seen people using like NameX or whatever platform, and they don't list a buy it now price. In those situations, how do you respond? Do you respond with your 6-figure number in that situation where you don't know who the buyer is?
Yeah, I mean, we need to set expectations because most people, you know, can't afford you know, most of the names that I'm getting inquiries on. I mean, I certainly have names that are a few $1,000s, but most of the activity that I see are the high value names. So I really want to kind of weed through them, get rid of the tire kickers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will set expectations with, you know, 7 figures or high 6 figures or mid 6 figures or whatever it is. And most of my names are priced. Very few are not. And the ones that are not are typically in the 7-figure range. And even with that, some of my 7-figure names are priced.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
I mean, you know, there's an argument to be had that I'm leaving money on the table. That's certainly possible. But I've also had people buy it now, you know, click buy it now and pay for names that I would have sold for much cheaper if they had contacted me directly. So, you know, it works both ways.
Uh-huh.
It certainly cuts down on the people that had no idea that a name is worth more than $10.
Cool. Great. Thanks.
Can I go ask a question maybe back to Rob and Paige and whoever would know this, but is the ICA or any privacy group aware of these RDAP privacy issues that you were talking about, Rob?
I don't think it's being talked about openly. It certainly wasn't being talked about at the last ICANN meeting that I attended in person. You could gather that from more the sidebar conversations outside of the formal sessions that this is really the direction that it was headed. You know, ICANN meetings, and I have not attended nearly as many as Jonathan, but there's a lot of pomp and circumstance, and then there are a lot of sidebar meetings where the essential policy items are essentially agreed, and then there's a draft statement, an opportunity for people to comment. But you know, to a large extent, it's a bit of cloak and dagger, really, that happens behind the scenes that decides what goes in these draft policy statements. It is multi-stakeholder in the sense that there's input, but I don't know that if there's a definitive objective on the part of certain law enforcement parties that are determined to kind of root out malfeasance to get to some outcome that lets them pierce the privacy veil, that is going to be readily stopped because the arguments for being able to pierce the privacy veil can be made in a very compelling way. So ultimately, your best solution is not so much to try to defend why it is the status quo should be maintained. It's probably better to just operate with a model where you can hold the domain name through a legal entity that satisfies the requirement, which is either a natural person, which can be a trustee, or a legal entity that is the proxy of the natural person. So, because I don't think that, you know, it's like they say, the revolution will not be televised. Maybe it will be, but I don't know that you're going to be given a heads up that as of January 1st, 2021, the privacy veil can be pierced at will. For all I know, as far as RDAP is concerned, it's already happening. It just hasn't been declared. You know how it goes. So I would just say, to the extent that anybody has the illusion that they have some kind of ongoing privacy in a world of highly evolved echelon and beyond surveillance, you know, you're probably living in a fishbowl, and you know, get comfortable with it. But if you want to be proactive, then consider the possibility of holding domains through a proxy, you know, buying domains with cryptocurrencies. You know, those are the types of things that would be required if you want to have any reasonable expectation of separating your persona with owning a domain name. And I know that we have clients in certain parts of the world where they adamantly protect their privacy, and we do our best to allow them to do that. And I'll just leave it there.
Hey, I wonder if the electronic, was it Electronic Frontier?
Foundation, EFF, yeah, Frank's mentioned it. Yeah, I mean, I would consider them to be kind of controlled opposition. They're obviously, they write great policy papers, but I think when you go back and look at their history as it relates to things like privacy, I wouldn't say they're on the leading edge of preserving individual liberty. Probably not.
Hey, I got a quick question. May I go? Guys, can you guys hear me?
Go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I just got a quick question. So I can go into my FD account and I can see how many visitors have visited my listed domain names or visited the page on FD, I guess within the last 30 days. And at the same time, I can go to my GoDaddy account, and I believe I can check and see how many visitors have come to my WhoIs page. But FD has been able to distinguish bots from actual visitors. So my question to you, or anybody that would maybe know this information, is GoDaddy doing the same thing? When I look at those visits to my WhoIs page, are those possibly bots, or are they actual visitors? You know what I'm talking about? Anybody?
Bueller.
Anybody jump in, guys? I was actually replying to a couple of comments, so I didn't hear everything, but guys,
yeah, I know what you're saying. In other words, just like our traffic companies, they may call it hits, and then they say unique visitors, real traffic, and then other places call it something and then something. Does GoDaddy have an equivalent number for that to let you know if it's real or just junk. And I would say that it is probably way, way down on their development plan to be that good to us, to give us a meaningful number. It probably is just some raw number, I would guess.
Yeah, I don't know either how GoDaddy handles it. The question I understood too, and it does make sense. And then again too, even if you have a count of bots, it doesn't necessarily mean that the other ones are not bots, because a bot can just hide itself quite well, and then it still looks like a normal visitor, but it's potentially a bot too.
I guess the only way would be is if there is some type of hurdle that someone has to reach to be able to make a real WhoIs inquiry, to actually ask the registrar for that information, and that at least your numbers would represent either a bot or a human being that got to that level. But I would bet that there's WhoIs stuff that's checking certain names every day. So it would be interesting to see how high some people's great names numbers are at GoDaddy for that, you know, and still have it not be meaningful that it's a real person that may have checked your WhoIs.
Well, Epic gives you the opportunity to see the IP addresses of people who have checked your WhoIs.
Come on.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you can click on that and it'll say such and such number of WhoIs lookups, and it shows the IP addresses. Now, that might be a little bit of a hurdle to actually search out specific IP addresses, but I suppose you could look and see.
It's actually very, if you could go whois.epic.com and then you can actually put the IP address right after it. It will give you the reverse lookup of the IP.
Oh,
wait a minute, you do, Rob, you do that where again?
Well, for any lead that you get, you know, we give you all the contact details of the party that has inquired about the domain name, and then we also give you the IP address of the person inquiring. Like, for example, there was a lead here a moment ago for a client, and it says in the footer of it the IP address, and you can click it and you can look up the actual IP address, and it will show you the exact city of where that person is connecting from. So whatever their ISP is, right, that's what it will show you. It's pretty accurate, though. I mean, this lead came from just outside of Provo, Utah.
But it's more than that, though, Rob, because it's the names, just the names in my account. I can look and see the number of WhoIs lookups.
Yeah.
And then I can click that, and then that opens up a box. And, you know, for example, here's the 10/6 of 2020, the IP address 45. Blah blah.
Yeah.
WhoIs lookup, a different date. So you know, there's 10 WhoIs lookups and 10 different IP addresses I can look at.
Yeah. So the way it works is it's color coded, green, orange, or red. And you probably know this already, but if it's red, what that tells you is that the same IP address is being looked up multiple times for multiple IP addresses. So in other words, there are presumed to be more than one interested party recursively looking up the WhoIs status of your domain name. And if it's orange, that's a single person looking recursively. And if it's green, it's only one-shot wonders, where it's an individual looking once. So usually if you have a red WhoIs record, your name is being surveilled by somebody who is interested in that name for whatever reason, maybe to buy it. But it's quite handy if you go in your Epic Domain Manager, you can actually browse through the Performance tab, and you can sort by WhoIs. But as you're deciding which names to renew or not renew, I find actually one of the very best indicators is the red WhoIs number. And I'll tell you that when it comes to the decision about names that I think are interesting in our expiry stream, I think that the domains that have a red WhoIs number are oftentimes the names that probably shouldn't be dropped. So you might want to keep an eye on that, because it's actually very good data, probably among the better quality signals for deciding which names to keep. And I don't know of other registrars that give you that level of audit trail information as it relates to WhoIs activity, because you can literally click on the WhoIs number and it will give you the full log of every IP address and when they visited.
Yeah, I remember last year when I started putting some domains in Epic, I saw that and I go, that's a really smart use of data. It's I mean, I don't mind talking about it here because like every registrar should be copying you on that. That's so it was a really smart data point that, you know, oftentimes I go to registrars and I go, they should do this, do that. Something I never would have thought of. That's really, it's a smart way to show data, you know?
Nicely done, Rob. Seriously, nicely done. I mean, I have that available via API on mine, but I don't surface it into the user interface. And I think you do an exceptional job of that there at Epic.
Well, I think that many registrars are keeping the data for themselves. We decided, you know, to kind of apply the do unto others test. And so we make it available. So our data is your data. But I think there are other, I won't name them, but I think there are other large registrars who have a very intimate knowledge of the utility of the WhoIs lookup data, and they don't necessarily share it. Even if they are capturing it, I don't know that they will ever share it. But it's diagnostically extremely useful.
I mentioned in the chat, and I think I showed folks this last week or at one point. Or if I'm going to do a quick screen share. Okay?
Oh wait, let's wait for the poll to end, and
you won't see it.
Yeah, I just want to hold on. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say here. I'll do a portion of the screen so it stays.
Yeah. Zoom is the real pain in the butt.
Wow, they changed. Actually, they've changed how it looks. So I'll share the most modest of the shares I can. So I can plug in a UA code into my DAN control panel or other places and look at, you know, real time when people are visiting the my pages. I think I showed this last week. So I've got one domain. It's just, I don't know why it's so hot. This one particular name, when I looked a few minutes ago, it was at 165. And so it just will suddenly surge, and I can see where those are coming from. It's a .me domain of all things. So such a strange thing, but it's so neat to be able to see that data. And I think that between how Rob's talking about surfacing the WhoIs information, I think web page hits, and even to some extent DNS records are going to be a powerful way to really interpret how the how to best understand how to price a name or what its value is. Hits sometimes is not indicative though of the value of the name is the thing. Like you've got that raw traffic, but it could be like raw traffic to a telnet port or some misconfigured IoT device that's doing the traffic hits. So the thing that I like about using Google Analytics is it is more in parity with what you might see as classic hits or organic traffic, because you know that it's web visits because they've had the page painted in order to get that tracking stuff.
Can you get to the IP level on those people that inbound to your landing page, or just their location and certain things about them?
So no, you cannot with this, but if you sought to, really control this, rather than use a lander like Dan or something of that nature, what you would do is you would point DNS at your own page, put in place your UA codes and whatnot, and then, redirect, say the name's for sale, click here and send them off to Dan or FD or whatever marketplace that you chose. And because you're controlling that main web page, then you would have the raw visitor logs that would give you all kinds of data. Yeah. If you really want to navel gaze all the log files and really, go deep analytics, that's the way to get the most.
Well, I was thinking more if you're trying to sleuth who's approaching you about your email address, looking at IP addresses over the last week could be helpful, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I found it to be very telling. There's actually, for given names, there'll be like a lead up of WhoIs requests from particular IP addresses, and I can kind of reverse engineer who it is that's doing the contacting.
I like what you did there.
a lot of the sales pages will, you know, give you the IP address of who requested it. So those are typically somewhat reliable, although there's so many VPN proxies out there where somebody can hide where they're really coming from, or they'll make offers through a, you know, some sort of agent to obfuscate, you know, if it's a larger, higher profile buyer. So, you know, those tools are only so good. Also, there's a lot of IPv6 use out there. A lot of internet service providers have turned on IPv6 for end users. And while there's some fantastic geographic data for IPv4 that you can get that's in the public domain, or tools and resources out there, it's not as strong in IPv6. So that's another sort of thing that's affecting that nowadays. So if you have IPv6 active, it's actually a benefit of IPv6 is it kind of breaks a lot of the geo-IP stuff that's out there and gets you around people being able to tie you as a buyer or purchaser.
Hey, Jonathan, for all of us,
yeah.
for all of us non-data geeks, you want to break down IPv4 and IPv6?
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. So you probably know an IP address as 4 numbers separated by 3 dots. So it's like, you know, 1.2.3.4. If you've made any changes to your IP address for your DNS server, for example, you might use Google's resolution and you might have set it to 8.8.8.8. Those are IP addresses which are called IPv4. And you know, they planned ahead and made an abundant amount of them. However, they pretty much are depleted and all allocated. So in order to create more numbering, unique numbering for different devices, they came up with a new addressing technique and schema, which is a new thing called IPv6. And when I say new, it's somewhat tongue-in-cheek. It came out in the 90s, but adoption has been growing more and more for these. And they basically, you know, I think almost every insect on the planet could get an IP address. There's such a vast number of IP addresses with it. But there are these super, super long addresses that, you know,
Jonathan, I suspect that this is still over most people's heads.
Yeah. So anyway,
8 groups instead of 4.
There you go.
128 bits.
It's a lot more. It's like it's quite cryptic, but yeah.
Well, and the good news is it means domains are that much more valuable, because nobody's going to say, you know, Braden's not going to give out an IP address to reach his website. He's going to give out his URL, and that's going to be a domain name, and the domain name is a pointer to that address. And with IPv6, the addresses are even more complex. So it makes domain names that much more valuable and important.
Exactly.
That's the part that matters to us, I think.
Okay, that I understand.
Money. All right, guys. So on that note, we're running a little bit behind for the auction, so we'll get into that. Anybody else have anything they want to add quickly on anything we've talked about so far? We get to the auctions? All right. So we'll get to the auctions now. Actually, hold on. I was going to stop the recording. So stop recording here. Thanks everybody watching on YouTube, and we'll see you next time. Welcome back, everybody.
So domain.
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay, we're just discussing a domain here, and the domain is ilovesanitizer.com. I just want to get people's feedback, what they think, or you know, what's the vibe?
It's a good, clean domain.
Sanitizers it's obviously popular, but I don't know if it's something people get excited about.
Oh, apparently they do.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it because it's like, yeah, loving sanitizer. I mean, like we sold, I think I sold the story. I sold spray sanitizer for $500, way underpriced because I forgot I had it.
Yeah.
I also sold another one underpriced in the partnered portfolio. I think it was a little better. We sold Goodbye Germs for $750.
Nice.
You know, after COVID, I probably would have raised the price on that again. $500 in my portfolio, $1,700 in the partner portfolio. didn't even think about having it.
What was
But
the second
those
one?
are, do what?
What was the second domain?
Goodbye Germs.
Goodbye Germs.
Yeah, I like Goodbye Germs. That's great.
So, I mean, I think those kind of, I mean, spray sanitizer is a product, definitely total product. Goodbye Germs is a brandable. I love sanitizer. Like if it was I love pizza, yeah, I get it. But I love sanitizer. I don't really feel that one.
It's a
I'm
bit of
not
a
saying you
stretch.
wouldn't sell if you hand registered it. You might get somebody to buy it, but I'm not even 100% sure you could sell it for cheap.
Yeah,
you know.
like who's the end user? Because it's not. I don't see a sanitizer product like somebody who makes it branding themselves that.
No, I thought it could be like an e-com site. You know, you hear it on the radio. Go to ilovesanitizer.com. It's super easy to remember. No one loves sanitizer. Yeah, I get it. But
did you already get it?
Huh?
Do you already have it?
Did I already have it?
Did you register it?
Did you get the name?
I paid $5 for it. Like I'm not worried about it.
Oh yeah, then build it out.
You know, it is what it is. Like I don't.
It's one of those domains that I think it's like, you know, if somebody started a site with that name, I would say, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's definitely not a bad name. But as an investor, I think the probability of selling it at a multiple that makes sense is a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
For me. But I mean, again, it's like, who knows with sanitizer, I mean, it's like name is going to be more and more trendy, right? As the year progresses. And
I just think there isn't much you can get that makes sense with the word sanitizer in it right now. And sanitizer's got a huge volume and, you know, demand right now. So I thought it's positive, it's memorable, and, you know, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but I thought there aren't many other options that are still positive, memorable, etc. So that's why I did it. That's why I grabbed it.
Build it out. Build it out. I could see that. I could see that making some sales for you.
Yeah, like a little e-com or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Adam's kind of retired from e-com for a yeah,
100%.
I know you mentioned some of your frustrations.
If I could burn out on Amazon, 100%. But no, I'm not the only one who wants to sell sanitizer in a crisis.
It's better than I need sanitizer.
Huh?
Or
it's better than I need sanitizer.
Yeah, that's gone because I checked.
Yeah, I don't know about any sanitizer domains. I always check. I mean, the one I have I have a couple of mask names that are, wait, let me just find.
I have mascaroni and cheese.
Mascaroni and cheese. Wow. I know I have some like sanitation type of stuff. I have a here. Oh wait. Oh, I have a couple really good ones.
Go on.
I have.
I love mass.
I have. Well, this is kind of a brandable. It's not my best one, but here. Oh, I have 3 good ones. So Sani Bio.
Nice.
Like sanitation, like
yeah, bio. It's like clean your bio or
yeah, Sani Bio. Well, no, I think more of a product. Like it's you know, it's like a soap name or something like that.
Yeah.
I have Sanitary Works, which I think is great.
Like spelled or with an X?
Huh? No. Works spelled properly.
KS, yep.
KS, Sanitary Works, which I think is I think that's a really good one.
It
Sanitary
is.
Works. It's a good company name, a good brand. And
it works.
Eh? Yeah,
it works.
Then I also have General Sanitization. So another good company name.
Yep. That's a by domains kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, General Sanitization. And Sanitary Works. Those are 2 really good company names. I should put them with good buy. What will you guys put those by now? Any suggestions?
What are you talking about?
What would you price them at? Sanitary Works and General Sanitization.
General Sanitization, $26.88.
General sanitation, not sanitization. Sanitation.
Yeah. Easier. Yeah, Ezekiel says 5K. Like I almost said 5K anyway as well. I agree, but Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a longer hold maybe, but it could also sell tomorrow. You know, it's a popular.
Yeah, and what I like about these ones is that there's some like there's big money in these office like cleaning companies. It's big business. I know a couple people who started companies like that, and they make good money. And they're a small business, and there are other like their chains and stuff like that where it's big money. You know?
But when you talk about sanitation, that's different from sanitization. Sanitation is like garbage collection and stuff,
yeah,
right?
Kind of everything, isn't it?
Sanitation is definitely, you know, waste removal, trash, that kind of thing, garbage, and versus sanitation. So yeah, I mean, I think general sanitation is still a good name, but it's different. It's way different than general sanitation.
Sanitization.
I mean, sanitization.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I have a couple of mask related domains and like to get input from the group for end user pricing. One of them is maskwholesalers.com and the other one is maskswholesale.com. I'd appreciate any feedback.
Like those.
Really like the first one. What was it? The mask wholesale.
Maskwholesalers.com.
Yeah.
The other one is maskswholesale.com. I also have breathingmask.com. I don't think it's as good as the first two though. Y'all say 5-figure valuation on the first two?
For the very first one, shouldn't it be wholesalers instead of sailors?
Mask wholesaler. Oh, singular, you're saying?
No, how does the seller word, how do you have it spelled? Sellers or sailors?
Can you put it into chat?
Yeah, sure. I will. Yep. It's mask wholesalers, plural. I'll put them both.
So it's basically, it would basically be a listing site, a directory of people who wholesale masks. That would be
it's a company that actually sell the masks themselves, you know, like we are the mask wholesalers.
Yeah, I guess that works too. Mask wholesalers, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Personally, I like mask wholesalers the best.
Yeah, me too.
That one has the most marketability, I think.
Mask wholesalers, top of the
What's
list.
what's the SV on breathing mask? I'm just gonna have a look at that.
I was hoping for a valuation somewhere in the low to mid 5-figure range for these domains. I don't know if that's if I'm too high or if that's way too low.
Have a look.
I would say at least for this time period, you might have a better chance of that.
Well, Laith, breathing mask has a 5400 exact match.
See, that's what I was going to say. Isn't that the one that you put the oxygen, like the
breathing? Yeah. Breathing mask has 5400 exact match in searchvolume.io. So I think, I like that one, and I like the mask wholesalers. Where would you place them as an end user price point?
Yeah, and for breathingmask.com, I don't necessarily. My first thought isn't a medical surgical mask, so that one's at the bottom of my list. There can be different definitions.
Well, it has many uses beyond the COVID situation, I think. Too.
Yeah, well, for sure.
You know, industrial or apparatus, or it's not just a COVID related situation, but it's hot during this time, I believe.
You could almost hook up with Tommy and put a lead generation site up on all of those.
I've thought about doing something,
especially now.
Yeah.
Or some type of affiliate marketing. Or
what about comps? Like, what have you seen about the end user pricing? As you mentioned, you'd like was a low 5-figure, did you say? What have you seen to give you the idea that perhaps that's the case?
I just thought it's because of the
climate.
Because of exactly right. But I'm looking here at comps on NameBio for domains with a keyword mask. The highest it goes up to is acne masks for 8,000.
but that's
Acme.
Acne.
Yeah.
And
but
if
that's
you
appending versus prepending, though, isn't it?
actually Acne Mask sold for 9,000, and then Acne Masks, the plural version, sold for 8,000.
Yeah.
So the highest comp on NameBio related comp would be Acne Mask for 9,000, if we're just going by the keyword mask.
Yeah.
I might be able to add a little bit here if you'd like to hear it.
Of course.
I just turned down an offer from GoDaddy for handsanit.com for $8,000.
Ah.
I have sanitmask.com, sanitwipes.com, sanitblanket.com, sanitsuits.com, sanitlight.com, sanitationmasks.com, sanitationwipes.com, sanitationblanket.com, sanitationsuits.com,
Well, you got it covered.
sanitlights and sanitlight.
So those are all for sale, or those all sold?
Those are ones that I'm just putting up to sell.
Oh, okay. So you don't have any sales though on those. Yeah.
No, I did have like I said, I just turned down an offer. They started at $2,000 on handsanit.com, and I didn't even respond to it. They came back at 3, and then they came back at 35 and 4, 6. Their last offer was 8. And that's who last I talked to them. Handsanit.com.
What's the price you're aiming for, Corky?
Wow.
I'd like to get about 25 for that one.
Okay.
Oh wow. So they went up to 8?
Quadruple.
They're at 8 right now. They haven't budged from there. So it's probably not the domain for them.
That was handsanit, SANIT.com?
Correct.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a pretty good price. I mean, Sanit isn't a known.
I knew everybody would say that.
Well, I mean, it depends.
Get rid of it for $8,000 and run.
Well, it depends, because Sanit to me is not a usual abbreviation for, like, Sani is Sani with a T. I don't.
Sanit is an abbreviation of sanitation, so.
Yeah, but
sanity.
It brings up the same volume when you Google it. So.
Really?
When I think of a brand with the sanitizers, I think shortening it to Sani makes more sense to me, with the I, ending with the I.
Yeah,
that's what I was. I thought that's what he said was hand sanit, but it's hand sanit
with a T.
Yeah.
SANIT.
You've got a pretty willing buyer, and I don't know how well you've done the other ones, but selling this one would certainly let you be super strong on your better ones, because you'd be totally house money after this one, plus a little something for to go out to dinner tonight, you know. And
there you go.
And that puts you in a really good frame of mind to sell like your 9th best for high 4 figures, and then you're like, well, I'm not even going to remember that I sold that one, you know, after the other ones come through.
Right.
But you know what you're doing. You'll figure it out. But it might not be bad to take them while they're hot, because it might be 2-3 years before someone else gets hot on that one. So it wouldn't be too bad to take that one.
I think that's a really strong offer.
I just wanted to build it up a little bit to get some comps that I can sell the others with. So.
Yeah, but this one won't even show. This one will make your other ones that aren't abbreviations. This will be like 25% of what, like, you know, in terms of the you'll be able to really discount this one, and say that 4 to 5 times this would. So yeah, I think it'd be.
Another thing I wanted to add was the wording in the emails. I don't know if you guys you've probably seen the same thing, but the emails that came in from GoDaddy had the smallest font that I've ever seen on an email. The only thing you could read was the price that they were offering you.
Oh.
Have you seen the same thing come in?
Don't get me started on GoDaddy emails. Their emails are just horrendous. And that's not even including that. I never noticed the font thing. But
No, I understand what you mean. It's some type of CMS system where what they actually say gets buried inside of a wrap, inside of a box, inside of a whatever, and they just figure we're GoDaddy, so who cares, you know? But you're getting paid. You're getting paid to put the glasses on, though. It's nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Corky, I was wondering, did they see your other similar names and just chose that one for some particular reason?
Not really sure. Of course, they wouldn't tell me who the buyer was or potential buyer, but I assumed it was somebody going into business. I've been noticing these ads on TV from Sanit Vanna, and they seem to be doing an ungodly job. But, you know, they got a crappy name, but they're selling a lot of product with it. So I thought maybe it might have been them.
Yeah, I was going to say the fact that they would have chosen that one if you had some others that seemed more, you know, intuitive, there may have been.
But if you're going to sell hand sanitizers, you know, just the word hand sanit, small, short, you know, it fits. You can do a lot with it. So.
Well, I mean, Ezekiel puts out a good point here in the chat that he said that there's 518 companies using the word Sanit on LinkedIn. So you know your name better than we do. So
yeah, no, I mean, if that's the case,
you're onto something.
You know, one more thing that I wanted to say, I don't know a lot about this, but instead of thinking of it as an abbreviation for sanitizer, it could be like an abbreviation for sanitize it, like hand sanit, you know, like hand sanitize it. Maybe that's kind of like what they're thinking. I don't know.
That's a good point.
But just to get back to Leif, who was asking about the wholesalers thing, I looked up wholesalers. The words that end with wholesalers on NameBio, and it's surprisingly kind of low.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking golf wholesalers, you know, dropship wholesalers, book wholesalers. They're all really, really low.
Right, right.
And those are big volume businesses. Like golf wholesalers, that's big. That's a big.
Yeah, but it sold at NameJet for $788 back in 2013. So, now granted, the one that you have is more timely for now, so you should be able to get a premium. But I don't know if you're going to get 5 figures for it.
Time will tell.
I've got a couple of good, you know, I think they're good. I know they're good mask names. I have one that's singular, one that's plural. The singular one, which I like more of a singular, just as a name of a product, is Tough Mask. So TUFF MASK.
Yeah, it'd be nice as a brandable.
Yeah,
I like
I
that.
think it's a great brand because especially like all these rinky-dinky masks that people are like losing all over the place.
So it's a beast of an industry now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's only going to continue, I believe. So it's a cool little brand for, you know, more robust mask, you know, tough masks. I think it's
and that's the whole thing is that it is a good brand, but it's also a really, you know, it's a good keyword too, you know.
What are you pricing that at?
I don't know. Let's make offer. So,
but it's a good keyword, but it's not tough as in TOUGH, right?
Yeah, but I think for the brand, I think the TUFF is
yeah, I like that.
I found a market analysis report. I'll drop the link in the chat. It says the global disposable face mask market size exceeded a value of US $74.9 billion. And
Holy
billion?
Wow.
Billion with a B, capital B. That's just in the first quarter of 2020, and is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 53% from 2020 to 2027.
Holy cow.
That's very encouraging too.
You just made me think of another domain called BioSanit Mask.
Well, I have another mask name that's plural, but it's good for like a name of a company. It's Green Masks. I
like
that one.
That's really good. Anything with green on it is good.
And green masks. I mean,
green for go.
So many things. Like, I mean, somebody could just have their own type of mask that's more, you know, be known as the green and whatever it is.
But green is eco too, right?
That's what I'm saying. It has it has so many. It's just a good color too. There's a
nice
green mask.
Yeah, that's I like that.
Yeah.
I like tough. Like I was just saying, absolutely to your point. You know, tough is better as a brandable. But what
Well,
I was
I don't know if
meaning is
better. I think probably equal maybe would be more at it. But I mean, tough as a brand with TUFF, I think that works fine. You know, it's
what's
not
on tough.com, TUFF.com. Does that resolve?
That's a good question. I got
Just
too many
curious.
those kind of checks. Would you say
Take them.
tough mask? Yeah.
Loading. Tough.com is
just tough
going to a lambda. Yeah, just curious what tough is. It a product or
it's a good brand?
Nothing's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up for me too. Resolving host. Yeah, it's just yeah, it's a regular yeah. Doesn't even say for sale.
It's a cool short 4-letter brandable.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I think that you should hold on to that one or sell it for a good number. That's a good brand there.
Yeah, which one? The tough or the green?
Tough. Well, both. Actually,
both.
Both.
Yeah.
I would think there's a 5-figure.
And to
yeah,
Lath's
yeah,
point,
for sure it's 5. I'm not gonna sell either of them for less than 5.
Yeah.
Figures.
Yeah.
I mean, Lath was saying, do you have it priced right now, Lath?
No, I'm just making an offer, but I really don't want to consider anything less than 10,000 on the two domains with mask and wholesale as the keywords.
Have you tried to outbound it or do any?
I haven't yet, but this market analysis report, the link I dropped into the chat, I was just looking, and they've got down here towards the bottom key companies: Honeywell, 3M, Moldex, Kimberly-Clark, and 3 more. So yeah, I'm gonna try to
well worth hitting out for sure.
Right. And Corky, you may want to also I don't know if you do outbound or not, but you may want to take a look at this market analysis report. You may want to contact some of the companies listed here.
What do you think of air sanitizer, the British way?
What was that?
The air, I put it into the chat.
With an S.
With an S, yes.
That was a .uk. Maybe it'd be better.
Yeah, yeah.
Canada. I even know how we spell sanitizer in Canada. I would have guessed with the S.
Same as American, though.
No. Canadian is weird. It's like it's most.
Yeah, you're more
UK.
British.
Let me just check.
But even in America, it's kind of almost interchangeable. I see it both ways. I mean, Z is more common, but people spell anyways, and they put an S. So
yeah. Okay, sanitize is the usual spelling in the U.S. and Canada. Wow. Okay.
Oh, over an Z, isn't it? That one was taken.
Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, and it's the type of thing where you go to one website, it'll say one thing, the other one will say the other thing. Yeah, Canada's weird. It's mostly the British spelling, but not always. Sometimes we'll get
all the French influence too, right? So.
And was that?
I said you have the French influence too, so that probably affects your spelling differently too.
Not so much. No, it's more like colors, like OU. Yeah, it's mostly British, but it's not everything. Every now and then there'll be certain words that are Americanized, and it's really
You're like a hybrid, well, a trio. Like you've got America, France, and the UK, right?
Yeah.
Like the French Quarter, the British colony, and then the American spellings of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, American culture, right? We got all the television shows, stations we're spelled over here. So
melting pot.
Because like 90% of Canadian population lives within 100 kilometers of the border. So something like that.
Corky, let us know how you do with that name, though.
Hey, so mask.com is available for, that's probably Braden Pollock's, I don't know. It's $2 million.
Wow.
$2 million, mask.com. Wow. That'll probably be worth buying at $2 million. Quick flip for $3.
Yeah, on that one, I mean, it's.
I'd prefer masks, like plural.
But you see, masks could be used for other things, like masks could
Yeah,
be used for like
face mask
kind of
or
not as security, but for
beauty.
No, what's the thing everybody uses when they use the different IP there? What are they called again?
Like a router, like
VPN?
VPN
Yeah, exactly.
router.
Yeah, VPN. That would be, a decent name for a brand for a VPN. But I don't see a VPN company paying $2 million for that.
No.
What VPN.com? What was the $1 million? I think that one. That was it was told a few times, that story on Sherpa a few years ago or whatever it was. But yeah, I think VPN.com sold, it was $1 million. So I don't think a VPN would spend $2 million for that. So it would be your end user would be somebody who will be known for masks, unless I'm trying to think of another usage that would be $2 million worth to buy. I can't.
What about?
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I mean,
mask.
What, Deborah? What did you say?
Maskwholesale.cc sold for $4,000 this year.
Whoa.
What?
Wait, what?
.cc?
Maskwholesale.cc sold for $4,000.
Well, there's
this
your
year at Sato.
Oh,
there's your cost.
Well,
yeah, there you go.
.cc is I think .cc is the second most popular extension in China. There's CN, which is their country code. I know they're big on CC. I guess it's China, whatever. CC is just whatever it is. But so it might be there. I might explain the lack of the S. Mask wholesale. Like
Hey, so I found a couple of mask names available. I'm just gonna run them by because I think they're kind of funny.
Wait. Let me get my my GoDaddy page open.
What are you opening up? Okay, so we've got Cars Mask. No, I'm joking.
You can have that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we've got smallmask.com.
That's handbridge available?
Yeah, go get it.
That's okay.
I
It's
mean,
not a
what
great
is it?
chain, but it's not. It's
Small
handbridge, right?
mask. Like what is it? A small mask.
Well, yeah, small mask for kids. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, maybe.
Mask for dogs, or I don't know.
I found another one
Well, in that
too.
case, is bigmask.com available?
Yeah.
Big mask. There's another one too. Maskrental.com.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah, imagine that.
Think about that. Yeah.
Reuse it. Mask rental.
That's like
That's
underwear rental.
People sniff them or something, huh?
Lingerie loners.
Yeah. Maybe we can rent out the mask rental as a domain.
Yeah.
Or mask adventures. There you go. God.
Just use for rent,
Someone's rinsed this. Anyway, guys, that's my pick of the week. My squeal of a deal.
Yeah.
All right.
What was that?
Okay, so
It's
yeah,
Keith DeVos. He has the squeal of a deal of a domain name, and it's on his podcast.
Yeah, he's got the sound effects. Yeah.
And I was trying to do the pig.
From pork bun.
Yeah. Okay, so on that note, guys, I'm just going to end the recording here because we were recording. It sounds like a good time to sort of end the recording. The way things are going.
Wrap it up.
So thanks to everybody who's watching.